On July 5th, Archangel Michael will reveal the mask someone close to you has been wearing. He's protected you long enough, but if you ignore this, you'll walk straight into betrayal. But now, there is a mask, woven not of cloth, but of deception. It has been worn by someone who shares your air, your laughter, your space. And yet behind their warmth is a whisper of wickedness, long shielded from your sight. Archangel Michael has seen the silent moves made behind your back, the manipulations you mistook for care, the loyalty you gave that was never returned. July 5th is not a date on the calendar. It is a spiritual checkpoint, a divine reveal, and you must not miss it. In secret chambers of heaven, angels have been whispering your name. They speak with urgency, for your soul has danced too long with shadows disguised as light. The divine protection placed upon you has been strong, but now comes the moment when protection must shift into revelation. Archangel Michael has waited, hoping you would see the signs on your own. But too often, love has blinded you, and loyalty has kept you bound to poison. Now, heaven is intervening directly. There are betrayals that shake the earth, and then there are betrayals that quietly dismantle your destiny. The person near you has not merely lied, they have altered the trajectory of your spiritual journey. You are not just losing time, you are bleeding purpose. On July 5th, their mask begins to crumble. But if you refuse to look, if you choose comfort over truth, then no protection will shield you from the consequences of staying connected to this disguised darkness. Type I'm rising to get blessing 5678. The Archangel's sword is drawn, not to harm, but to cut away the cords that keep you tethered to treachery. You've been feeling it, those dreams, the gut nudges, the sudden distance. These are not coincidences. They are heaven's warnings. And now, your spirit is being summoned to attention, not through pain, but through prophetic precision. This is your moment to awaken from emotional anesthesia. On July 5th, a veil will lift, not in thunder, but in subtle clarity. You may hear their words and feel confusion melt into recognition. You may see their face and feel a divine dissonance stir within you. This is discernment rising, not suspicion. Archangel Michael is stepping through your atmosphere to whisper what your intuition already knows, but your heart keeps silencing. He's tired of watching you hand your light to someone who only wants to dim it. You were not made for cycles of spiritual sabotage, and you were not meant to confuse proximity with purpose. Someone close to you has worn a mask so perfectly crafted, even your prayers didn't pierce it. Until now. This revelation will not just free you, it will realign you. And Archangel Michael is standing ready, sword in one hand, truth in the other. Will you dare to see? Type I am chosen to get the blessing 1516. The mask they wear was not put on overnight. It was built over years, layer by layer, each deception sealed by your trust, each betrayal cloaked in affection. This person learned your rhythms, mirrored your values, mimicked your tone. They studied how to disarm you with familiarity. They offered support when it was easy, disappeared when it was hard, then returned when they sensed you needed an anchor. But their anchoring was not love. It was strategy. Archangel Michael watched as you reached out in vulnerability and were met with performance. He saw the moments when you silenced your instincts, convincing yourself you were just overthinking. He heard your whispered prayers late at night, God, show me the truth, and now the time for answers has come. The mask is cracking, but it won't shatter on its own. You must be willing to see beyond the performance, beyond the charm, beyond the history. This is someone who benefits from your blindness. They are not always cruel, but they are always calculated. They appear during your breakthroughs and subtly reroute your focus. They flatter you when you rise, but sow quiet doubt when you shine. Their words are not always lithe, but their motives are not always pure. July 5th is not merely a reveal. It is your moment to reclaim the clarity that has long been withheld from you by proximity. Type I am awakened to get blessing 4044. You have defended them. Again and again. You told yourself they meant well. You justified the red flags as misunderstandings, the emotional detachment as their trauma, the manipulation as unintentional. But discernment isn't about labeling someone as evil. It's about recognizing the damage they cause regardless of their intent. Archangel Michael is not revealing this to punish them. He is revealing this to protect you. You've lost sleep over this person. You've lost momentum, opportunities, peace. Every time you began to rise, you felt drained and couldn't explain why. That's because emotional sabotage rarely screams, it seeps. It creeps in through familiar conversations. It masks itself in concern. I'm just worried about you, they say. But somehow, after speaking with them, you always feel smaller. Always feel like doubting your own decisions. That's not concern. That's control. Michael says this betrayal isn't just relational. It's spiritual. It's kept you entangled in patterns that delay your purpose. You weren't created to constantly recover from confusion. You were created to build, to soar. But every time you attempt to rise, this masked figure distracts you with drama, with subtle guilt, with passive aggression wrapped in love. And you think you're being loyal, when in truth, you're being lured. Type I'm rising to get the blessing 5892. On July 5th, don't just expect words to be spoken. Watch for energy shifts. Watch for the way they respond to your joy, your newness, your boundaries. You'll start to see it. The way their smile strains when you shine too brightly. The awkward silence when you express excitement. The back-ended compliment that makes you second-guess your progress. This is not support. This is sabotage cloaked in subtlety. Archangel Michael will not allow you to remain bound. This is your divine interruption. You may feel a sense of grief, even disbelief, when you begin to see who they really are. That's natural. When someone wears a mask long enough, it's not just they who forget, it's you too. But the grief of awareness is lighter than the weight of deception. The truth will sting, but it will also set you soaring. And as the veil lifts, you must be prepared. This person may lash out, not with overt rage, but with guilt, tears, confusion. They may try to twist your clarity into cruelty. How could you think that of me? They'll ask. But don't fall for the emotional trap. Clarity is not cruelty. And Archangel Michael will give you the strength to stand firm in what's been revealed. Do not explain away the truth for the sake of keeping peace with someone committed to disturbing yours. Type I am chosen to get the blessing 7474. The mask will not last another season. Michael's sword will see to that. But you must not delay. July 5th is the appointed time, not a suggestion, but a summons. Your spirit is on the cusp of liberation, but you cannot be free until you detach from the hand that secretly holds you back. This is not about anger. It is about alignment. The angels are not coming to destroy. They are coming to reveal. When the veil begins to tear, it does not always do so with drama. Sometimes it rips in silence, in the stillness of your thoughts, in the sudden moment when their words no longer comfort but confuse. That's how the divine works. Not always with thunder, but with undeniable clarity. And that's what Archangel Michael is bringing on July 5th. Clarity that won't allow you to pretend anymore. You'll notice the inconsistencies, the subtle smirks, the poorly veiled envy. And when you do, don't flinch. Just see. This person thrives in your uncertainty. They don't need to overpower you. They just need to plant doubt. Doubt in your purpose. Doubt in your direction. Doubt in your decisions. Every time you second-guess yourself, they feel more in control. That's how they've remained close for so long, not by overpowering your strength, but by quietly unraveling your confidence. But Archangel Michael is done watching you walk in circles. You circled this mountain long enough. It's time to rise. It will start with a conversation. Maybe small. Maybe disguised as a joke. Maybe a dismissive tone when you share your dream. You'll sense it. The energy won't match their words. Your "I'm happy for you" will feel hollow. Their "I support you" will come with conditions. You'll suddenly realize that their presence has always required you to shrink. And Archangel Michael says, you must not shrink anymore. Type "I am rising" to get the blessing 6842. As the mask begins to fall, expect resistance. Not just from them, but from yourself. You will wrestle with guilt. But they were there for me. Yes, they were, but only when it cost them nothing. But they love me. Maybe so, but love without integrity is just manipulation in disguise. But I can't imagine life without them. That's the point. The enemy counted on that. That's how you were kept contained. Michael says this: heaven never asks you to stay loyal to what is killing your spirit. That is not love. That is spiritual codependency, and it must be broken. July 5th is not the beginning of drama. It's the beginning of deliverance. You've prayed for peace, for growth, for alignment. Those things do not exist where deception is tolerated. Heaven is answering your prayers not with comfort, but with confrontation. Don't be surprised if others don't see what you see. This person has a public mask too. To the world, they may seem supportive, charming, kind. But you've seen what happens behind closed doors. The sarcasm, the disregard, the subtle undermining. Remember, heaven is not interested in appearances. Heaven is interested in truth. And the truth is this: the person closest to you is not who they've pretended to be. Type "I am awake" to get the blessing 7923. Michael is drawing you out of entanglement. But liberation comes with cost. You may lose access, traditions, shared memories. You may lose the comfort of familiar dysfunction. But what you gain in exchange, peace, clarity, divine alignment, is worth everything. When the mask falls, so will your illusions. You will no longer confuse manipulation with mentorship. You will no longer call emotional leashes loyalty. You will call it what it is: spiritual sabotage. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's the power of divine revelation. It burns away the fog you thought was your atmosphere. You will suddenly recognize that the person you thought was your protector was your prison. That's not to say they meant to harm you. But whether intentional or not, they did. And Michael's message is clear: harm is still harm, even when it smiles. You may feel lonely after the reveal. Don't confuse that loneliness with loss. What you are losing is the illusion of relationship, not relationship itself. Real connection cannot be rooted in falsehood. Real love doesn't require masks. So when the exposure happens, stand tall. You are not being abandoned. You are being rescued. This is not rejection. This is redirection. If this word has ignited something in your spirit and stirred fresh courage within you, we encourage you to respond with a super thanks of $20. Your support enables us to continue releasing prophetic words that bring clarity, healing, and hope to those moving from betrayal into breakthrough. You can also donate through PayPal by clicking the Support Here link in the video description. Every seed sown strengthens our ability to speak life and truth into the lives of others. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a moment of spirit-led wisdom, prophetic direction, and divine encouragement tailored to your season of transformation. Type I am protected to get blessing 3313. There is a new circle being formed around you. One built on truth, not obligation. One where your soul can exhale. But you cannot access that circle while you're still tied to the old one. Michael is not removing people from your life. He is revealing the ones who were never truly part of your destiny. You must believe that truth is more sacred than tradition. You must believe that peace is more valuable than performance. The betrayal that's being exposed is not punishment. It is preparation. What's ahead for you requires full capacity. You can't take confusion into your calling. You can't carry loyalty to poison into a garden you're meant to bloom in. Michael isn't cutting you off. He's cutting you free. And when the mask fully falls, you'll realize something shocking. They were never for you. They were just near you. As the dust settles from the first reveal, echoes begin to ripple through your spirit. Echoes of every moment you overlooked, every time you rationalized their behavior, every whisper you silenced inside yourself. Those weren't just off days, and you weren't just being sensitive. Those were warnings. The way they downplayed your accomplishments. The sudden mood shifts when you were joyful. The way your spirit dimmed in their presence, not from fear, but from suppression. That was your soul protesting against pretense. Archangel Michael speaks clearly now. This person was a counterfeit confidant. They studied your light not to honor it, but to mirror and mute it. They learned your fears, your dreams, your insecurities, not to support you, but to gain silent leverage. Their closeness was strategic. Their affection, transactional. They never celebrated your breakthroughs. They endured them, waiting for the next window to assert their control. That is not love. That is domination cloaked in concern. And yet, you tolerated it, because you were told that love bears all things. But divine love does not include bondage. It does not silence intuition. It does not manipulate your growth trajectory. Heaven did not send this person. You held them. You justified them. You thought loyalty could convert their heart. But all it did was prolong your pain. Michael is not asking you to hate them. He's asking you to release them. Type I am letting go to get the blessing 6262. The pain you feel is not just betrayal. It's the fracture between who they showed you and who they actually were. And that fracture stretches through your memory. You begin to ask, was any of it real? And the truth? Some parts were. But the foundation was never truth. It was convenience. They found safety in your compassion. They found shelter in your silence. But they never honored your spirit. And now, the heavens refuse to let you carry their shadow into your new season. On July 5th, the curtain rises, not on chaos, but on clarity. This exposure is surgical. It is precise. Heaven is not interested in embarrassing anyone. It's interested in elevating you. Michael's sword is not drawn to sever recklessly. It is wielded to cut spiritual cords that have hindered your wings. You may mourn the memories, but you will not miss the manipulation. You may grieve the shared years, but you will not grieve the weight that lifted the moment you saw them fully. When they sense you pulling away, They may become kind. Watch for that shift. Suddenly, they will do the things you wish they'd done before. They will offer time, attention, praise. But don't be fooled. That kindness is not transformation, it is preservation. They are trying to preserve the access they had to your energy. But Archangel Michael says, access must now be earned, not inherited by history. I'm discerning to get the blessing 7771. This is not just about one person. It is about a pattern. A spiritual tendency to equate loyalty with love. Michael wants to break the agreement you made with self-abandonment. Every time you stayed silent to keep peace. Every time you shrank so someone else wouldn't feel insecure. Every time you gave without receiving. You weren't being holy, you were being hijacked. And heaven is reclaiming you. The revelation will awaken things inside you. Anger, grief, relief, even confusion. Let them rise. Emotions are the proof that you're healing. Do not suppress the waves. Ride them. Let them move through you, because on the other side is power. And Michael stands beside you through it all, not just as a guardian, but as a witness. He saw everything they said when you weren't in the room. He heard the subtle curses masked as jokes. And now, he's pulling you out of it for good. And still, they may ask to stay. They may apologize, cry, promise change. But discernment isn't measured by their words, it's measured by your peace. When you're around them, do you breathe easier? Or do you brace yourself? That is the answer. And Michael whispers the sacred truth into your spirit. Real love does not require you to armor your heart around it. I'm healing to get blessing 8934. There will come a moment, so quiet, yet so pivotal, when you will look at them and realize you are no longer deceived. That is your sign, not their confession, not their apology. Your clarity is the closure. The cycle ends when you stop explaining away the evidence. Heaven will confirm what your heart already knew. And in that moment, you will not feel broken. You will feel free. Freedom, though divine, is not without cost. The moment you embrace the clarity Archangel Michael has revealed, the consequences of awareness begin to ripple. You see things differently, not just in them, but in yourself. You recognize every time you silenced your soul for peace. Every moment you bit your tongue to avoid conflict. You remember when your boundaries were met with coldness, and your joy became a silent threat to their comfort. And now, you can't go back to pretending not to see it. There will be loneliness, not because you're alone, but because the illusion of companionship is gone. You'll walk into rooms where once you felt connected and now feel detached. That's not punishment. It's alignment. Your spirit is shedding its old skin. Your soul is no longer content with shallow waters. You've been called to deep places, and those who feared your depth were only ever meant to stay in the shallows. Michael isn't asking you to fight them. He's asking you to outgrow them. They may mock your growth, dismiss your boundaries, paint your awakening as betrayal. But remember this: people who benefited from your confusion will always resist your clarity. They may gather others to reinforce their narrative, claiming you've changed. And you have. You've evolved. You no longer confuse proximity with purpose. You no longer stay just because leaving is uncomfortable. July 5th didn't just expose them, it elevated you. I am elevated to get blessing 7177. This part of your journey is sacred. It is the bridge between exposure and expansion. But be warned, after the mask falls, they may come disguised again, this time as the person you wanted them to be. They will echo your words, mimic your healing language, speak of growth and change. But don't look at what they say. Look at what you feel. Does your spirit rest in their presence? Or does it retreat? Michael is sharpening your discernment. You will no longer mistake manipulation for maturity. You will no longer confuse eloquence with honesty. The mask may be off, but the performance isn't over. The difference now is, you're no longer the audience. You are no longer emotionally bound to prove your worth to someone who never saw it clearly. You've been released from the stage of pretense, and your soul is returning to its true rhythm. Yet this hurts. Yes, there's grief. Yes, part of you wants to fix it, make it better, return to what was. But Archangel Michael speaks clearly. What was never whole. It was a partial bond, a transaction disguised as intimacy, a silent competition disguised as friendship. Every smile came with a price. Every compliment came with a leash. And now you are breaking free, not in rebellion but in revelation. Type I am free to get the blessing 2212. You may start remembering things that once felt small, words they said, moments that stunned but didn't make sense at the time. That's the truth rising. That's your spirit replaying the signs you ignored. But don't sink into regret. You weren't weak, you were loyal. And now that loyalty has turned inward. You're loyal to your calling, your peace, your clarity. And that shift is what terrifies the ones who could only control you when you doubted yourself. You're not being cold. You're being clear. There's a difference. And clarity is an act of divine warfare. The enemy thrives in confusion, in blurred lines, in half-truths. But the moment you decide that peace is more important than history, heaven aligns to honor that decision. Michael is not giving you a sword to fight them. He's giving you a shield to protect your growth. The battle is not with them. The battle is within you, between who you were and who you're becoming. And now, finally, the weight begins to lift. Slowly at first. A lightness in your chest. A deeper breath. A stronger no. A quieter mind. These are the signs that heaven's work is being done. The space that was once occupied by tension is being filled with trust. Trust in God. Trust in yourself. Trust that what was removed was never required for your purpose. The betrayal wasn't a barrier. It was a mirror. Type I am trusting to get blessing 5040. Let them go. Let their version of the story run its course. Let their confusion circle in its own orbit. You are not responsible for their denial. You are responsible for your deliverance. And when you feel that pang in your heart, the one that whispers, maybe I was too harsh, remember this: clarity isn't cruelty. It is the highest form of self-respect. And when Archangel Michael moves in your life, he doesn't come to leave things as they were. He comes to set things right. After revelation comes the aftershock, not in the form of chaos, but in the quiet. The silence after exposure is its own storm. You'll notice how much space their absence creates, not just in your schedule, but in your soul. You'll walk through familiar routines and realize how much of your energy was spent managing their moods, softening your truth, shrinking your light to maintain their comfort. The betrayal didn't just hurt, it drained you. And now, Michael says, let restoration begin. Archangel Michael does not reveal without a reason. Ever never so vitalistic expectation is the next assignment. But before the expansion comes, there must be detox. Not just from their presence, but from the programming. The voice in your mind that says, maybe I overreacted. the temptation to text them one last time, the desire to explain your silence. But listen closely. You do not owe closure to someone who weaponizes your compassion. You'll feel it. Waves of guilt rising unexpectedly. Not because you did something wrong, but because for so long, you equated love with sacrifice. You gave until you bled and called it grace. You tolerated dishonor and labeled it humility. But the truth is, you were loyal to a false narrative, a version of them that never truly existed. And Michael has pulled back the veil not to shame you, but to unchain you. Type "I'm unchained" to get blessing 2755. The spiritual aftershock is where identity is rebuilt. You're not just healing from what they did. You're healing from who you became to survive it. The quieter version of you. The accommodating version. The one who said yes with a clenched jaw. The one who downplayed miracles to avoid their envy. The one who questioned your own worth every time they withdrew affection. That version is dissolving now. Not because you hate them, but because you've remembered who you were. And in this remembering, something sacred unfolds. Your voice returns. Your boundaries solidify. Your laughter becomes fuller, realer, untouched by performance. You no longer measure your tone to avoid setting them off. You speak without editing. You exist without apologizing. This is what Michael meant by reclaiming you. You thought the mask being removed was about them. It was never just about them. It was about you returning to yourself. But don't expect the enemy to remain silent. The closer you get to wholeness, the louder distraction will try to creep back in. You may receive messages from others saying they miss you, or they didn't mean it like that. You may be tempted to soften your stance, to reconsider. But Michael says, you were not delivered to negotiate with dysfunction. You were delivered to protect your destiny. Type "I am delivered" to get the blessing 8864. And destiny requires space. Sacred space. Protected space. What's coming next cannot bloom in polluted soil. There are divine connections, new alignments, and powerful assignments being prepared for you. But they cannot be planted in a heart still tangled in yesterday's confusion. Heaven has cleared the field. Let it remain clear. The one who wore the mask may try to return. But remember, healing isn't real if you're still available to what hurt you. There will be moments you miss them. Not them, but who you hoped they'd become. You'll miss the potential, the inside jokes, the history. And that's okay. Mourning is part of movement. You are not bitter. You are not cold. You are becoming. Becoming someone who finally sees clearly. Becoming someone who no longer edits their greatness. Becoming someone who understands. Not everyone who started the journey is meant to cross the finish line with you. Michael reminds you, not every separation is punishment. Some are prophecy. His unmasking was written, scheduled, orchestrated. It had to happen on July 5th, not because of coincidence, but because of divine timing. You are walking into a season that cannot tolerate hidden sabotage. What's ahead requires spiritual precision, and heaven will not allow silent assassins in your inner circle any longer. You are being equipped to build, and only truth can build something that lasts. If this word has ignited something in your spirit and stirred fresh courage within you, we encourage you to respond with a super thanks of $20. Your support enables us to continue releasing prophetic words that bring clarity, healing, and hope to those moving from betrayal into breakthrough. You can also donate through PayPal by clicking the Support Here link in the video description. Every seed sown strengthens our ability to speak life and truth into the lives of others. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a moment of spirit-led wisdom, prophetic direction, and divine encouragement tailored to your season of transformation. Type I am becoming to get the blessing 9433. So rest. Ream. Let the quiet after the quake remind you that stillness is not emptiness. It is preparation. Heaven is not done. Michael has more to reveal. Not about them, but about you. The parts of you that are being restored. The strength you forgot you had. The joy that's coming back in waves. The clarity that no longer leaves room for confusion. This isn't the end of a chapter. It's the beginning of an entirely new book. Now that the mask has fallen and the silence has settled, the sacred work begins, not outside you, but within. Archangel Michael has not only removed the deceiver from your life, he's also cleared the fog from your vision. And what remains is a landscape stripped bare of falsehood, ready to be rebuilt in truth. This is your reconstruction season, where foundations are laid not on memories or history, but on alignment. It's time you build differently. This time, you build with God. In this new terrain, you will notice how your soul starts asking different questions. Not how do I fix them, but how do I honor me? Not how can I make this work, but what do I need to grow? And as these questions rise, you'll find your habits shifting. You'll say no faster. You'll sense energy more quickly. You'll trust your inner knowing. The same knowing you once dismissed as overreaction. It was never overreaction. It was always prophetic intuition. Michael whispers, "You're not rebuilding from scratch. You're rebuilding from experience." And what a holy difference that makes. Every wound has taught you discernment. Every disappointment has sharpened your spiritual sight. Every cycle you broke has become a compass, pointing you toward peace. You are not starting over in weakness. You are rising in wisdom. The ruins were necessary, not because you failed, but because the old structure could not sustain your next level. Type I am rebuilding to get blessing 8841. This season demands sacred boundaries. You're no longer available for people who drain you. You're no longer explaining your worth. You're no longer keeping the door cracked for those who've proven they will only enter to rearrange your peace. Michael is helping you fortify your spirit, not in fear, but in reverence. Because what's being built in you now is holy ground, and not everyone is qualified to tread on it. You'll feel tempted, at times, to go back. Not because you miss the chaos, but because healing sometimes feels unfamiliar. We often mistake emotional quiet for emptiness, simply because we've lived in emotional noise for so long. But this stillness, this peace, it's not emptiness, it's evidence. Evidence that you've left survival behind, that you've graduated from cycles, that you've stepped into spiritual maturity. This is what it feels like to be aligned. Michael reminds you, growth is lonely before it is full, because not everyone will understand your new frequency. Some will say you've changed, and they'll be right. You have. You've stopped romanticizing inconsistency. You've stopped mistaking tolerance for love. You stopped chasing people who would rather compete with you than cover you. And that shift will confuse them. But clarity is a language not everyone speaks. Type I'm aligned to get the blessing 6166. Now comes the rebuilding of trust, not just with others, but with yourself. That's the real work. Learning to trust your gut again. Learning to believe yourself when your spirit gets tense. No more silencing the inner alarm. No more calling it insecurity. Michael says, Your spirit speaks before your mind can process. And this time, you will listen. Because when the mask fell, it didn't just show you who they were. It reminded you who you've always been. And what you are, underneath the trauma and confusion, is whole. You were never broken, just buried under expectations, conditioning, manipulation. Now, you're surfacing, re-emerging with clarity. And this clarity doesn't make you harsh, it makes you holy. You no longer entertain what insults your spirit. You no longer try to earn space in places that were never sacred to begin with. Your light is no longer negotiable. The reconstruction will not be loud. It will not be broadcast. It will be quiet, steady, divine. One decision at a time. One boundary at a time. One act of self-honor at a time. And slowly, you'll realize you're no longer bleeding for people who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. You're no longer bending so others can stand taller. You're walking in spiritual authority, and your peace is not up for discussion. Type I am whole to get blessing 7,332. So let them wonder. Let them question. Let them talk. Their confusion is not your concern. Your clarity is your calling now. And Michael stands guard, sword still drawn, but now not in battle, rather as a witness to your rising. He was there when you almost went back. He was there when you cried and no one knew why. He was there when you whispered, "God, show me," and heaven answered with exposure. What rises from the ashes of betrayal is not bitterness. It is you. The true you. The one who no longer needs validation to breathe deeply. The one who understands that peace is not a prize, it's a birthright. The one who finally walks without the weight of proving, fixing, or earning love. Archangel Michael does not just remove the mask from another, he's unveiled the truth about your identity. You were never meant to be small. You were never meant to be silent. And now, look around you. The silence that once felt hollow is starting to hum with divine melody. This quiet is fertile. Heaven is speaking, not in thunder but in instruction. Now that the noise of manipulation has ceased, the voice of God can be heard clearly again. And what he's saying is this: you are ready. Ready to rise. Ready to be seen. Ready to stop hiding behind resilience and start walking in radiance. Michael's wings have shielded you in the storm, but now they stand behind you, not to block, but to propel. You no longer need rescue. You need release. This is your commissioning. You have come through fire and refused to come out smelling like smoke. You were not consumed. You were clarified, refined. And now the world will see what heaven has always known. You are chosen. Type I am chosen to get blessing 3,588. Don't fear the attention that comes with authenticity. In the past, you dimmed your shine because their discomfort screamed louder than your joy. But not anymore. You no longer shrink to protect fragile egos. Your growth is not arrogance. Your confidence is not rebellion. It is evidence that God's hand has remained on you even when others tried to manipulate your mind into forgetting your worth. It's new you may feel foreign at first. You'll second-guess your strength. You'll hesitate to speak up. That's residue from the old you, the one who was gaslit, guilted, and groomed into silence. But Michael says, every time you choose truth over tolerance, your wings grow wider. This is how you rise, not in rebellion, but in revelation. You're no longer seeking to be liked. You're seeking to be liberated. They may come back, not to rebuild, but to reconnect. Be wise. Not every return is redemption. Some are recon missions sent to test your resolve. You'll hear familiar tones, see nostalgic expressions. But the truth is this: if they only value you when you leave, they never truly saw you when you stayed. Michael warns, the snake that sheds its skin is still a snake. Time wise to get the blessing 6901. Now is the season to solidify, to not only walk in truth, but to root in it. Build a life around what's real. Surround yourself with voices that sharpen, not shadow you. Choose community over convenience. Choose connections that fuel you rather than flatter you. Your time of bending and breaking to be understood is over. You are not too much. You were just in environments that required you to be less. The rising version of you will attract both admiration and accusation. That's normal. Growth agitates those committed to stagnancy. But don't dull your edge. You were not sharpened to be shelved. The anointing on your life demands movement, momentum, and mission. And Michael reminds you, what was exposed was never meant to remain. Exposure was your exodus. From false peace, from toxic love, from spiritual paralysis. Now, every step you take becomes a sermon. Every no you say becomes a hymn of freedom. Every tear you no longer shed for them becomes a declaration. I am done negotiating with deception. And in heaven's courts, chains are breaking every time you say yes to yourself. This isn't just a self-esteem glow-up, it's a divine emergence. The real you isn't just rising. You're reigning. Type I'm reigning to get blessing 5125. And in your reign, you'll begin to notice divine replacements. Where manipulation once stood, peace takes root. Where counterfeit friendship lived, divine connection appears. Where confusion lingered, clarity now reigns. Heaven is not just removing, He's restoring. Everything you lost while loving the wrong person is being returned. Not all at once, but with precision, with grace, with holy timing. Michael's final word for this moment is simple. Do not apologize for your healing. Not everyone will understand. Some will call it pride. Some will label it selfish. But the heavens rejoice every time you choose your wholeness over their comfort. You spent long enough trying to earn your way into rooms that were never worthy of your presence. Now, you build the room and decide who's allowed in. There comes a sacred moment in every healing journey when you no longer look back, not from hate, not from denial, but from clarity. That moment is now. Archangel Michael stands witness to your becoming, but also your detaching. This is where soul ties are broken. This is where emotional echoes are silenced. This is where you no longer question what you saw, felt, or knew. The final mask has fallen, and your spirit has stopped negotiating with betrayal disguised as loyalty. This person, once close, once central, now fades into perspective. Not a villain, not a hero. Just a human who made choices. A human whose actions no longer fit the atmosphere of your growth. Forgiveness doesn't mean reintegration. It means release. And Michael urges you, do not confuse letting go with cruelty. It's clarity that saves you. It's clinging that costs you. You owe yourself a life built in truth, not tension. They may linger in your memory, showing up in dreams, in music, in familiar places. That's normal. That's residue. But residue is not reason to return. Every time your mind wanders, bring it back to this truth. You didn't walk away from love. You walked away from illusion. And in doing so, you honored your spirit. You chose peace over pretense. You chose destiny over drama. You chose truth over trauma. Type I am released to get blessing 7878. Even now, their energy may still try to reach for you, not always through contact, but through thought. You'll feel them pulling, subtly. Wanted access again. Wanting a reaction. Wanting to test the strength of your detachment. But Michael stands between you and that old cycle like a divine firewall. Every time you almost reply, almost check their page, almost justify the past, he whispers, "You've already been delivered. Don't revisit the prison because the door is still open." The enemy often uses familiarity as a trap. He'll send triggers to your doorstep wrapped in nostalgia. He'll use memories to make you question what you've seen with your spirit. But remember, spiritual clarity is not erased by emotional waves. The facts haven't changed. Only your healing has. And healing isn't forgetting. It's remembering without returning. You're not bitter. You're beyond it. Michael knows the cost of your rising. You gave up comfort. You walk away from what once defined you. But what you gain now is weightless authority. You don't need to prove anything. Not your side of the story. Not your pain. Not your awakening. Your peace speaks louder than explanations ever could. The loudest thing you can do in this season is thrive in silence. Type I am beyond it to get blessing 4006. And as you settle into that silence, something powerful happens. The void fills with purpose. The space once occupied by that person becomes a sacred canvas. Suddenly, new friendships appear. Ones that see you, hear you, cover you without conditions. Ideas begin to flow. Your body rests better. Your soul breathes deeper. This isn't a coincidence. It's the aftermath of divine surgery. The infection has been removed. Now the healing accelerates. This is when you begin to truly understand the weight of what was lifted. You thought you were just losing a person. But really, you were losing patterns, strongholds, spiritual chains. Their presence had become an altar of delay, where your dreams were sacrificed, your clarity was questioned, and your instincts were shamed. But no longer. Michael has broken the altar, and now you are rebuilding on sacred ground. You may still grieve. That's okay. Grief doesn't mean regret. It simply honors the depth of your capacity to love. Let the tears come when they must. But don't confuse your tears with a need to return. Some tears are for release, not reconciliation. And Michael whispers, grieve the version of you that tolerated that much, not the person who required it. You are not mourning the loss of alignment. You are mourning the illusion of connection. If this word has ignited something in your spirit and stirred fresh courage within you, we encourage you to respond with a super thanks of $20. Your support enables us to continue releasing prophetic words that bring clarity, healing, and hope to those moving from betrayal into breakthrough. You can also donate through PayPal by clicking the support here link in the video description. Every seed sown strengthens our ability to speak life and truth into the lives of others. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a moment of spirit-led wisdom, prophetic direction, and divine encouragement tailored to your season of transformation. Type I am restored to get blessing 8345. This detachment is final. Not because you're cold, but because your soul has graduated. You no longer vibrate at the frequency of performance, confusion, or codependency. Your healing is your declaration. Your wholeness is your boundary. And your joy, that's the reward. It's not flashy, not loud, but it is unshakable. And that's what terrifies the ones who only knew you in pieces. Because now, you're whole. So continue walking. Don't turn around. You've crossed the threshold. This is holy territory. Michael is behind you, guarding your past. God is before you, paving your future. And your spirit, it finally belongs to you again. Unclaimed, unshackled, undeniably rising. Now that the final detachment has taken place, something subtle yet seismic begins to rise within you. Sovereignty. This is not about ego. This is not about revenge. This is the soft but steady realization that your life belongs to you again. Every step you take now is uncoiled from guilt, unbound from false obligation, unchained from roles you were never meant to play. Archangel Michael doesn't just protect you from danger, he restores the throne you abandoned to please others. You've been wearing invisible chains so long that freedom feels surreal at first. You second-guess your joy. You wonder if you're allowed to be this peaceful. But this is not borrowed peace. It's earned through pain, through clarity, through detachment, through divine warfare your spirit endured when your mouth had no words. And now, Michael places something on your head that was always yours, though you didn't realize it before. Your crown. The crown is not flashy. It's quiet. It sits in your posture, in your decisions, in your silence. It lives in the way you no longer explain your peace, in how you guard your rest, in the way you allow people to misunderstand you without rushing to fix it. Because now you understand, truth does not require convincing, it requires consistency. The ones who see your light will find you. The ones who don't were never aligned with your elevation. I am crowned to get blessing 4727. This new chapter isn't built on proving. It's built on protecting. Protecting the truth you now know. Protecting the clarity that almost cost you your sanity to acquire. You are no longer accessible to chaos, not because you're harsh, but because you're healed. You no longer beg for love. You no longer plead to be chosen. Because now you realize you are the blessing. And if they couldn't see it, that was never your blindness. That was their spiritual limitation. Michael whispers, you were always royalty. They just treated you like a resource. And now, that resource has been reclaimed by heaven. What they mishandled, God is now exalting. Not to shame them, but to restore you. This is recompense. Not for revenge. Life for rhythm. You are being placed back in sync with heaven's original intent for you. July 5th wasn't just a reveal. It was a reset. Everything begins to shift from here. Your time no longer leaks into dead conversations. Your energy no longer feeds what doesn't multiply. Your mind no longer spins trying to decode mixed signals. Because now, your atmosphere is guarded. It's purified. And in that purity, your creativity returns. Ideas flow. Sleep deepens. Favor finds you. That's the crown at work. That's spiritual royalty settling into your bones. I am royalty to get blessing 6,900. And don't be surprised when new doors open with no explanation. That's what happens when false alignments fall away. The divine accelerates what was once delayed. You'll begin to meet people who speak your frequency, who pray like you, dream like you, respect you without needing to humble you first. These are not distractions. They are replacements. Heaven never subtracts without the intention to elevate. This is where you step boldly into assignments that once felt intimidating. Why? Because the weight that made everything hard has been lifted. You didn't need more energy. You needed fewer soul ties. And now, with the soul ties severed, your stamina returns. Your intuition sharpens. You start building again, creating again. And this time, no sabotage, no inner conflict. Just divine alignment doing its holy work. Michael reminds you, you were never too weak, you were just too surrounded. Surrounded by confusion, by takers, by energy vampires disguised as friends. But now that they are gone, you'll see what your spirit can do when it's no longer in defense mode. You don't have to fight to be seen anymore. You don't have to audition for love anymore. You walk in fullness, and the world adjusts to you. Type I am walking in fullness to get blessing 3022. And that fullness is not seasonal, it's sustained. Because it's not built on emotion. It's built on discernment. You will never go back to the version of you that begged for breadcrumbs. That version has returned to dust. What remains is divine, deliberate, and deeply grounded. You don't just know who hurt you. You know who you are now. And that awareness is eternal. Michael's sword is no longer raised for war. It now points forward, guiding your next steps. Not in fear, but in authority. You walk ahead not just with protection, but with purpose. And behind you, no echoes of confusion. Just silence, peace, and the holy rhythm of someone who finally knows, this crown fits me perfectly. As you walk forward wearing the crown placed by divine hands, you notice something sacred emerging. Untouchable peace. This isn't the kind of peace that tiptoes around people's moods. It's not the fragile silence kept by appeasement. This is a sovereign calm, born from fire, raised in storms and refined in the presence of betrayal. Archangel Michael has walked with you through the valley of deception and now escorts you into your promised stillness. That peace will confuse people. They'll wonder how you can smile after what you've endured. They'll search for cracks, expecting you to crumble again. But they won't find any, because you've been fortified from within. This peace is not absence of chaos, it's the presence of God. It's the result of trusting heaven more than history, of releasing what wounded you without holding on to the poison, and of learning that stillness is strategy. This season demands you honor that peace with fierce loyalty. You are no longer accessible to drama. You are no longer intrigued by dysfunction. What once stirred you now bores you. That's not numbness, that's elevation. You've ascended, and from this height, you no longer respond to what tries to pull you back into the pit. The same voices that once unsettled you now bounce off your spirit like arrows hitting armor. Type I am untouchable to get blessing 6621. They may still speak your name. They may twist your story. They may present half-truths as evidence. Let them. You are not fighting for reputation anymore, you're walking in revelation. And revelation makes explanations irrelevant. You don't need to defend your growth. Your fruit will testify. Your light will speak. Your peace will preach. Archangel Michael says, when you rise with clarity, you stop responding to confusion. This new you does not explain. This new you does not perform. This new you does not lower your volume to soothe someone else's insecurity. You don't have to. Because now, you know that peace isn't passive. It's protective. You protect your energy like royalty protects a throne. You've learned the sacred art of non-response. Because you now understand, some battles are distractions dressed as duty. And what happens next is stunning. Heaven begins to reorganize your atmosphere. People leave without warning. Plans change without your input. Doors shut that you thought were promises. But don't be alarmed. This is not loss, it's cleansing. Michael is removing what your heart no longer has to carry. He's sweeping your path so nothing can cripple your destiny. What seems like instability is really divine order in motion. Type I am at peace to get blessing 5888. In this purified space, you begin to dream again. Not the cautious dreams you whispered in fear of judgment, but bold, heaven-sized dreams. You start to see visions of the person you were always meant to become. The clarity of detachment created space for revelation. You're no longer praying for survival, you're praying for strategy. No longer asking, why me? That what now? That's the sign of transformation. That's spiritual graduation. Michael leans in now with a fresh instruction. Be careful who you share your peace with. Not everyone will understand it. Some will resent it. Some will try to drain it, disguising their access requests as support. But discernment will sharpen. You will sense immediately when someone arrives with a hidden agenda. You will feel your peace shift before your mind can articulate why. That is heaven training you to listen with your spirit first. And when that moment comes, when you feel that subtle resistance, that inner contraction, believe it. Don't dismiss it. Don't spiritualize it. Don't call in judgment. Call it wisdom. Michael has refined your discernment for a reason, so you never again confuse kindness for compatibility. So you never again stay because you're used to them. You don't owe access to anyone just because they were there during your unhealed chapter. Type I am discerning to get the blessing 4047. You are now living proof of divine turnaround. What was once a wood is now a weapon. What once broke you is now the very thing that births your boldness. You speak with grace, but you walk with authority. And when you enter rooms, heaven enters with you. You no longer tiptoe around your truth, you carry it like a torch. You were not meant to survive quietly. You were meant to rise loudly. The betrayal no longer stings. The memory no longer triggers. The name no longer holds weight. You've outgrown the pain, not by ignoring it, but by confronting it with divine clarity. That's what makes you untouchable, not because harm won't try to reach you, but because you won't be moved by it anymore. There is an anointing that can only fall after the unmasking. It cannot be rushed. It cannot be mimicked. It arrives when the false has been fully released, when you no longer crave apologies, explanations, or reunions. It descends when your spirit becomes a clean altar, ready to receive the weight of divine assignment. That is where you are now. Not just free from who wore the mask, but filled with the oil that their absence made room for. Archangel Michael did not walk with you through betrayal just to leave you healed. His mission was always empowerment. You've been preserved for purpose. Now that the fog is gone, now that clarity has become your compass, heaven begins to deposit into you what was delayed by that false connection. Ideas come faster. Insight feels deeper. Instructions from the Spirit become clearer. This is not imagination. This is activation. And with that activation comes responsibility. This is not the time to revisit old wounds. This is not the time to reconnect with what confused you. You are carrying too much oil now. One wrong conversation can disrupt what heaven is stirring. One wrong re-entry of the masked person into your atmosphere can slow what has just begun to bloom. Michael's voice is sharp here. What was unmasked must remain out of reach. Type I am protected to get blessing 9012. This new anointing will feel different. It won't come through chaos. It won't come through loud confirmations. It will come through subtle shifts, divine nudges, prophetic instincts that feel like déjà vu, but aren't. They are glimpses of alignment. You'll sense when something is off before it speaks. You'll know what's yours without asking. That's the clarity you earn through fire. That's the reward for not running when the truth became uncomfortable. There's a boldness rising in you now, not arrogance, but awareness. You no longer shrink from your own greatness. You no longer negotiate your capacity. The same you that used to question your gifts now walks in them with full ownership. Because you finally see that the ones who tried to dim you were never intimidated by your flaws. They were threatened by your fullness. Michael stands watch, ensuring that what comes next is holy. No more counterfeits. No more emotional drainers. No more manipulative support. What's coming is divine alignment. People sent not to take but to tend. People who won't compete with your calling but will cover it. These are not just friends. These are covenant connections. And they only arrive after the mask falls and the gate is guarded by your discernment. I'm walking in alignment to get blessing 6677. Be cautious. This level of clarity will attract counterfeits wrapped in spiritual language. Be vigilant. Not everyone who says God told me is sent by heaven. Not everyone who quotes scripture is operating in spirit. You will know them by how your peace responds. The fruit won't lie. Michael warns you. Don't get caught in familiar rhythms just because they sound safe. If it costs your clarity, it's not from the kingdom. This new dimension you've stepped into is not for spectators. It's for builders. For those who rise not just with revelation, but with assignment. You are now commissioned to do the very thing your past tried to suffocate. The attack wasn't random. It was targeted. It was about your voice, your oil, your future influence. That's why the Mach 1 was so close. Proximity was their strategy. But Michael flipped it. What they meant for spiritual suffocation became your spiritual awakening. And you are not just awake, you are awakened to war. You know now that silence isn't always peace, and kindness isn't always purity. You've been trained to see beneath surfaces. You've earned the authority to speak with power and love. And when you speak now, chains will break, not because of your tone, but because of your truth. Your clarity has become your weapon. I am activated to get blessing 3111. From this point on, nothing about you is ordinary. Nothing is casual. You don't enter rooms, you shift atmospheres. You don't connect casually, you assess spiritually. You don't lead from emotion, you lead from discernment. Because when heaven pours oil on someone who's passed the test, there's no more hiding. There's no more dimming. There's only demonstration. You are the demonstration. You are the evidence that betrayal cannot cancel destiny. That clarity is currency. That heaven will expose who others defend. That peace is possible after pain. And that angels still walk with those who dare to let go when it hurts. Michael has not just walked with you, he has warred for you. And now he's watching you walk in the oil that cost you everything false. Radical obedience rarely feels like reward in the beginning. It feels like loss, like silence, like aching, like walking away from what once kept you warm, even if it burned your skin. But heaven honors the ones who obey when it doesn't make sense, who leave behind the familiar to follow a whisper. That was you. And Archangel Michael has watched as your spirit obeyed the call to release what looked right, but felt wrong. And now, the reward begins. It doesn't come all at once. It comes in waves, in peace that lingers longer than it used to, in strength that surprises you mid-conversation, in laughter that comes from the belly, not the performance. It comes in divine appointments, doors that open with no explanation, favor that finds you without force. This is what happens when you obey without proof. Heaven rushes in. The delay breaks. The drought ends. Michael whispers, radical obedience releases radical overflow. And now the heavens are releasing compensation, not just for what was lost, but for what was stolen. Time. Energy. Focus. Tebe. Confidence. God never lets pain end on an ellipsis. There is always a redemption, always a recovery, and your recovery is happening now, not later, not someday, but now. Quietly, supernaturally, without spectacle, but with power. Type I am receiving to get blessing 8851. Your obedience wrote the timeline of your life. You could have stayed in the cycle. You could have kept justifying. You could have kept choosing peace at the cost of your purpose. But you didn't. You walked away. Not with bitterness, but with belief. And belief is a currency in the kingdom. What you lost in people, heaven is repaying in presence. What you released in the natural is now returning as strategy. You'll notice it soon. The shift in how people respond to you. These with which you speak truth. The confidence that no longer needs confirmation. You're no longer guessing your way through destiny. You're flowing in it. That's what obedience births. Not just opportunity, but alignment. Not just success, but significance. Not just freedom from people, but freedom for purpose. And yes, some people will still try to misunderstand you. They'll say you change. And you did. You healed. You stopped asking for permission to be whole. You stopped dancing around dysfunction. And that's okay. You're no longer explaining what God is doing inside you. You've become too full of purpose to keep shrinking for those who only knew the wounded you. Type I am walking in purpose to get blessing 2433. This is what rising feels like. Not chaos. Not confusion. But confirmation. The kind of confirmation that needs no audience. The kind that settles in your chest and says, yes, this is it. You'll feel it when you speak and don't stumble. When you lead and don't flinch. When you rest and feel no guilt. Because your obedience birthed authority. Not the kind the world gives, but the kind only heaven can seal. Michael now reminds you, don't shrink from the spotlight heaven puts you in. You're not being elevated for applause. You're being positioned for impact. There are people assigned to your obedience. Lives connected to your yes. Had you stayed entangled with the masked one, you would have missed the assignment you're now stepping into. This isn't just about your healing. It's about your harvest. And what a harvest it will be. Because you didn't just walk away. You grew away. You chose holiness over history. You picked discernment over dysfunction. And now heaven honors your choice by pouring wisdom, clarity, and provision into your hands. The old you would have panicked at this moment. The new you prepares. You're no longer hoping things align. You expect them to. You've seen what obedience costs. And now you will see what it pays. Type I am prepared for overflow to get blessing 9931. And it pays in peace. In real love. In true alignment. In moments that echo with the sound of heaven's approval. That's your new rhythm now. You walk to the beat of a different drum. No longer running to prove. No longer chasing to be seen. You're not looking to fix anything anymore. You're simply becoming everything God already placed within you. Michael's sword is no longer defending you. It now points to your future. A path cleared. A trail blazed. Your obedience unlocked something eternal. Not just in your life, but in your lineage. Cycles are broken now. The masked one may have touched your past, but they have no access to your future. The moment you chose clarity over comfort, generational change began. You've reached the threshold where endings are not mourned but honored. where the past stands not as a prison, but as a teacher, where the one who wore the mask is no longer your burden, but your breakthrough. Archangel Michael now lowers his sword, not in defeat, but in completion. What needed to be severed has been cut. What needed to be seen has been revealed. What needed to be faced, you face fully. There is nothing more to uncover, nothing more to heal from. What tried to destroy you has only defined you. The mask they wore, the deception they lived in, the weight they placed on your soul, none of it was stronger than your spirit. None of it outlasted the light within you. And now, with heaven as your witness and Michael as your guide, you close the chapter. Not in silence, not in rage, but in reverence. This was always a divine assignment. The pain, the parting, the process, it all shaped your becoming. You are not the same. You speak with truth. You walk with grace. You discern with fire. And where you're going now cannot be undone by what's behind you. The door that once held confusion now seals behind you with finality. And ahead, a new dimension, a field of promise, a space custom built for your clarity. Michael smiles now, not with relief, but with honor. You listen. You let go. You obeyed. You didn't turn away with the truth heard. You stood in the fire and found yourself inside it. And now heaven's reward comes, not just in blessings, but in being unshakable. You no longer wonder if you're enough. You no longer chase closeness with those who hide daggers behind their smiles. You have become whole. So step now, with your chin high, with your peace intact, with your discernment sharp. The mask they wore no longer matters. The truth lives in you, and that is your power. That is your inheritance. That is your new identity, one not defined by pain but by purpose, one not built on betrayal but on breakthrough. You are the prophecy fulfilled. You are the answered prayer. You are the proof that divine protection always reveals what the heart cannot. The path is open. The past is closed. And you are finally free. If this word has ignited something in your spirit and stirred fresh courage within you, we encourage you to respond with a super thanks of $20. Your support enables us to continue releasing prophetic words that bring clarity, healing, and hope to those moving from betrayal into breakthrough. You can also donate through PayPal by clicking the support here link in the video description. Every seed sown strengthens our ability to speak life and truth into the lives of others. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a moment of spirit-led wisdom, prophetic direction, and divine encouragement tailored to your season of transformation. Type I am fulfilled to get blessing 7777.